Hello and welcome to the Halloween Shed. Tonight we're going to talk about lighting, all things lighting. Whether up lighting looks good and spooky, whether down lighting looks spooky. It's really about preference. Where you can store lights, where you can put lights, and the categories. I've broken it up into three main categories. There's kind of like what I call stage and DJ lighting. Then there's haunted attraction specific lighting. And then there's like general all-purpose lighting, stuff that really isn't from haunted attractions, but you use it anyway. You kind of repurpose it. So let's check it out right now. Ooh, spooky.
Here is your DJ and stage category. So this category is really cool. You can go pretty entry. I love these lights and I've been using for a while. These are the entry level lights for Chauvet. I've chose a Chauvet brand and I found that if you stick with one brand, it's a lot easier from a wire and kind of hooking up perspective. These ran anywhere between $70 to about $120, being this one. And this is the 64, 56, and 38 Slim Par series. Some of these have been discontinued and they've now evolved it for more Bluetooth or wireless capabilities. It's up to you. These are really great. This is going to be for what DJs are using, all the way up to pro stage lights for concerts, and those run anywhere between $600 and $1,200. So you can really go really awesome with these, and you could go pretty entry level. It's up to you. I personally like these just because there's a lot of functionality that starts to happen with these. So let's check it out. We have the DMX area, so DMX in and out. We have your power supply, so both in and out, so you can run and daisy chain these, so you could just plug it into one outlet and then daisy chain them if they're close together. And then you have a couple of other things here from a DC 12 volt perspective, as well as your dip switches, or in this case, these are digital dip switches. You might have other things on here like USBs or satellites or any other things like Bluetooth. These are really great though. I mean, they're not waterproof, but that's why I have them tucked away behind the cemetery fence. But the more you're willing to spend, the more they start to trick these out and make them like things like waterproof. So what happens here now is these, because they're DMXable and they're RGB, so red, green, blue, and I think they're actually white, RGBWs, you can now hook these up to things like the Fright Props Director. You can start to program them, and you can start to sync them to shows. In my case, I've synced it to a show, so all these lights change color, and everything fades and starts to be really great throughout the show, and it's all automated. So that's what you can really start to do with these ones if you want to spend a little bit more money. You can chain them together, you can satellite them, Bluetooth enabled, you can use them in Director, and they're really great. A lot of these name brands you'll be able to find, but the more obscure brands, or the more you try to find the one-off brands or even make your own, it's going to be harder to be able to bring it into things like Director or some of the other lighting software. Next up is what I like to call the haunted attraction light category. In this case, I've made these or sourced them from like Lighthouse LEDs, LED Lighthouse, I think, and things like LED supply for some of these heat sinks and the Cree LEDs there. So these are like homemade stuff. And then, of course, there's a ton of other things that you can get on like Fright Props, like the Nano Spot, the Color Piano, and then all the line of Gantom, all their DMX floodlights, their spotlights.
Let's look at the Nano Spot. It starts at $5.99, or you can get the Plus, which is $14. It's a little bit bigger and brighter. Up next is the Color Piano at $54, and this one can be controlled by your phone and has preset colors. Now we move to the Gantom with the Precision Z at $65. This one has a better lens, but still the preset colors. The Gantom DMX Flood is around $225, so it's a significant jump, but it has RGB capabilities. And there's also other things that Gantom carries, like the Storm series for outdoor use, and things like a Gobo projector, as well as a new one called Gantom One. Those range in price, and you can check out Gantom or Fright Props for more of those. A side note, most of these here that I showed are pretty much for outdoor use, but they don't really recommend it. And if you want to make your own LEDs, you can make one for about $2 pre-wired from Lighthouse LEDs. Or you can go to things like LED Supply and get heat sinks, RGBW lights, and make something a little bit more advanced. Just a note here, if you want to do advanced LEDs, you do have to do some research or have some good friends like my friend Guy to help you through the process.
Those are some great options from a haunted attractions perspective, just because they are catered to haunted attractions. They're going to be small, they're going to be dark, and everything is going to be murdered out, black everywhere, so that it fits in and gets tucked away inside of stuff. They might have interchangeable lenses, they might have a flood for more coverage, or a spot for pin spotting some props. And they're rated for that kind of way we do things in haunts, where we're tying electrical lines together, so a lot of them are LED based, and a lot of them are going to pull very low voltage there. So that is the haunted attraction lighting category, as I like to call it, for when you want to light your haunt. Let's talk all-purpose lighting. This lighting, the reason why I call it all-purpose is because you just buy it anywhere. It's meant for really anything. It's not meant for haunted attractions, but people repurpose these all the time for haunted attractions. We got these are on Amazon or a lot of other places. I'll put the link below. These are just LED lights. These are actually weatherproof, waterproof, at least from what I gather, and they're pretty cheap. They run anywhere between $16 to about $30, depending on the size. This is like the 16, and as you move up the wattages, you'll get a higher price. They usually come corded, just make sure. Some of them don't, and then they also each one comes with one of these little remotes, and they have a couple of sets of colors, brightnesses, and then a couple of preloaded modes here, flashing, strobe, all that stuff. Good stuff. They last a long time. They're a good workhorse. If you need something quick in a pinch, highly recommend them just to have them on hand. The second one, the trusty flood lamp, the clamp light that everyone has probably used before. If you're not familiar, you can get these usually at a hardware store like Home Depot, Lowe's, or the Ace of the lot here. They have the screw-in action, they have the clamp, and they have the plug. I usually get a fader with it too, just in case. This is going to work with your halogen-based bulbs, so you can get these flood bulbs usually for around $7 to $10 at those hardware stores. They're sometimes there, sometimes they don't carry them. You'll see. This film usually kind of rubs off the first or second year. It's not ideal, but they're pretty cheap. These run about $10 to $13. These, like I said, are around $7. They've now upgraded to LEDs. These are pretty good. They throw out a pretty good beam. We'll show you it a little bit, and they're a little bit more expensive, probably around the $12 to $14 range, but I don't believe the dimmer works on those. So these are the all-purpose lights that you can use for your haunted attraction.
So I went through a lot of lights. Let's look at them together and compare them into these areas. You have weather, you have light, you have functionality, and you have price. Let's look at weather first. So for DJ and stage, you do have options for weatherproof stuff, except they're very expensive. For haunted attractions, there's also a selection of weatherproof things, but they are just a little bit more expensive too. And for all-purpose lighting, most of them are weatherproof and actually really inexpensive as well. Next up is brightness. So for DJ and stage, they are very bright. We're talking 1200 lux and up. For haunted attraction brightness, it varies. Some are very dim, and some, like the RGB floodlights, are 900 lux. All-purpose didn't get a check because most of the lights there aren't as bright as the other two categories. Except for the LED floodlight. You'll see why in a little bit. For functionality, DJ and stage nails it. There's so many different ways to program and customize these lights. They're awesome. For haunted attractions, it varies. Sometimes there's some functionality and sometimes it's just simply a light. For all purpose, there's really not that much functionality in most of those lights that I showed you. Sure, you could pre-program colors, but they usually don't connect to things like Director or any other sort of lighting software. Let's look at pricing. So for DJ and stage, they're a little pricey, and they get really pricey when you want to get to that professional grade stage lighting. For haunted attraction, there are options that are inexpensive, but most of the time they're a little costly. And for all purpose, they are cheap, they are inexpensive, and you can usually find them everywhere. Let's talk lighting setup. So here's an example of uplighting. It's a little bit more extreme than downlighting, just because you're down on the ground and the angle is a little bit more severe. So what happens here is it starts to create a little bit more of a dramatic effect. Things seem a little bit more larger than life. They seem a little bit more dramatic. And you get things like texture, a little bit of the shadows, but the texture is really what starts to come out here, and a little bit more, oomph to your scene. You can see in the back too, the mausoleum starts to really get this kind of like emphasis on it. Most of the time, uplighting is just a little bit easier to do as well, just because it's down on the ground and you're not hanging things up from somewhere. Now let's say you can't put anything down on the ground, or there's really no area. So the next best thing that I like to do is try to hide them. So even if you can't do that kind of dramatic lighting, see what you can do to kind of tuck that light in. So in this case, I've just tucked it in to my cemetery fence, because that's what I made them for. And I have a lot of tight space at the Bethel Pumpkin House. So see what you can do to do that, or to centrally locate them. Maybe it's coming out of a window, maybe it's up on a tree, maybe it's just behind like a big piece of tarp or one of your props. So if you can't do up or down lighting, see what you can do to hide those lights or centrally locate them. Let's look at down lighting. I took those same lights and I put them out the window. They're about 16 feet off the ground, face down at the set. And some neat things happen here. You get some beautiful shadows that start to get cast. But some of that texture that we had from uplighting, like the cracks and the textures from the columns, they go away. But some more shadows are formed in like the cracks of the mausoleum and the roofline. You can also add things like gobos or just organic texture like leaves, just to break up some of the light here. Downlighting is also very familiar to the eye just because it mimics the sun and the moon. And here is a base. This is just a base. My camera is hard to focus. This is a base with no lights. This is just the light pollution of other houses around me, the moonlight. Now let's see each light, the spread, the coverage, whether they have a soft or hard edge. Let's kick it off with what I'm showing right now, the Chauvet Slim Pars. These are in the DJ and stage category, and you can see that they're very directional. You can have one pointed at a column or the mausoleum, or you could just point them at both. They have a nice soft edge, and you can get them very bright. So you might be able to see these, but these are those Amazon LEDs. And it's both the 20 watt and 10 watt. You can see some color here, but it's pretty dramatic on how little color you can see. So this is definitely not going to illuminate your set from this far away and that high up, but they're really good if you brought them a little bit closer. Maybe if you put them inside down here, about 10 or 6 feet away from some of these things, either up or down light. So just wanted to show you how they look and how much spread they give. And here is the halogen flood. So that's just a floodlight you can get at a hardware store. It throws pretty well. You're gonna get some color, and it's pretty wide. I mean, it could hit the mausoleum and the cemetery fence, and you could definitely see the blue color. It's more of like, I would say, like a moonlight, if you wanted to replicate moonlight, but not necessarily gonna really give you a wash of color, which is good and bad, So I think whatever you feel like you wanna do, this might be a good solution for you if you just wanna throw a little light. There we go, halogen floodlight. And here is the LED halogen light. Well, it's the LED floodlight. And this is very bright. You can see that it's a little bit crisp as far as lighting is concerned. It's definitely brighter than the halogen, and I would say pretty much on the same level as the Slim Par, but it is very washed. I mean, like the whole area is washed with this blue color, which I think is a great thing if that's what you want to go for.
So we look at some of these lights. Now you can really get to start to see details here. You can see those dramatic shadows on the ground, and you get some of those really good shadows from the mausoleum here. So this is the LED floodlight. It's hard to see this, but this is that LED light from Lighthouse LEDs. It's really good at just focusing in on one particular prop, but to try to light up a whole set, it's definitely gonna struggle and be really dim. So definitely recommend it for just like focusing on one thing, but don't try to light up your whole set with this. So that wraps it up for this little fun video, there we go, on lighting in your haunted house or haunted attraction. I hope this helps, gives you some ideas. Just see how things work, from halogens, LED lights to small LED lights, stage lighting, all that stuff. So hopefully you'll be able to get some really cool stuff going on in your own yard or haunted attraction.
If you want to see more videos, you can check them out here or go on my YouTube page. And until next time, happy haunting.